wary from the torrid heat while on patrol in the bush to be treated to ice cream flown in by helicopter. Not uncommon. You're out there on patrol, could get shot any second. Could be ambushed, step on sharp spikes that go through your foot, a mine or something. It's hot, hot jungle heat. You have some ice cream flown in. That's weird. Now it says PX's offered, I think that might be like the catalog or supply center. PX's offered an extraordinary range of specialty items, from pantyhose, lingerie, and diamonds. Can you believe that was available? To radios, televisions, and Napoleon brandy. It's not a very hunker down and let's get this damn war won kind of attitude. More of a, what the hell are we doing here? Can't wait till I can go home. That was the attitude, wasn't it? The U.S. Army fought in Vietnam equipped with all the conveniences that the world's richest nation could provide. With all the amenities, the conveniences, with all the conveniences, they would do well to have added the convenience of a moral fervor, or the convenience of a purpose. That would have been nice. Why are we fighting in Vietnam? Because. Oh, God. Have some ice cream. We won't be here long. No, wait. Why are we here? Why are we doing this war? Look in the catalog. See if you can get some steaks or beer. Alright. I'm going to go on to the next book. We actually only need the beginning, the opening bits of that for the background on the opening of the war. Now, A Contagion of War is the next volume. Now, a little information about the on-the-ground facts. Someone described this as Ellsworth Toohey type information. What did they eat, and what was their, how did they sleep, and what was their daily, you know. Like that's what you're supposed to teach children about. If you teach them anything about ancient civilizations, that's what you're supposed to teach. Is what did the normal person do in their daily life, you know, naturalism type thing. Well, I think that it might have a little bit of value historically as far as Vietnam goes. Now, I'm not strobing lights off and on in the background. It's just a cloudy day and clouds are going over. During the first few months, lessons in the facts of life for an effective infantryman were learned the hard way. During another patrol, we're coming in the middle of this guy's story. Dojka, it's D-O-J-K-A, Dojka's platoon, halted for a rest break at a watering hole. Two Marines put down their weapons and sauntered into the nearby hamlet. Suddenly, a Vietnamese man dressed in black pajamas stepped from a doorway and aimed a pistol. He fired several shots, hitting one Marine in the stomach and the other in the head, then disappeared. Patrol after patrol, casualties occurred that way, in ones and twos. There was never any dramatic confrontation with the VC, just a slow, steady attrition from booby traps and sniper fire. Months of tension took its toll. And then Dojka says, I think I went into a state of mild, self-protecting shock. The primary objective was no longer to help the Vietnamese, but rather to get out of the country in one piece. So when he first went there, we didn't go over that, but when he first went there, he had sort of an idealism about it. We're going there to help the Vietnamese. We want them to be free. We're the Vietnamese friend. We're trying to get the communists out of there. But going around in the country and seeing, you know, how the Vietnamese treated the Americans and what the Americans thought of the Vietnamese, he lost his idealism real quick. Now they decided to try a new tactic. In 1965, on July 1st, the 1st Cavalry Division, Air Mobile, was activated to carry out a new concept in warfare, heliborne infantry assault. By combining the rapid mobility provided by helicopters with the firepower and maneuverability of an infantry division, the 1st Cavalry could deliver troops and artillery anywhere a helicopter could land or hover. Now, it seems like at this point, people have got their heads stuck in the sand. How are we going to fight this war? the population, it seems, a good part of the population, is very sympathetic with the enemy. What are we going to do? Well, let's figure out a way to fight the enemy without losing a lot of soldiers. I don't know. I mean, we can see in retrospect it didn't work, but I just don't know why we didn't use the Germany and Japan model. We skip a page here. On March 21st, 1965, in Selma, Alabama, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made a speech to demonstrators setting out on a march to Montgomery, the state capital. Dr. King said, quote, "I don't know if I can approve of black boys being drafted and sent to a war 10,000 miles away for the interests of the white man's world." End quote. Well, those of you that think Dr. King was really that great of a person, just take that right there. He doesn't think the black boys ought to be going around 10,000 miles away to fight a war for white man's world. What does that mean? Does that just mean that, I mean, black people aren't interested in fighting communism? Communism could advance endlessly and Dr. Martin Luther King wouldn't be worried. Is that what that means? Or does he just mean that you'd be fighting with the U.S. military and there's still prejudice in the United States? If that's all he means, maybe. But if he means that he's not worried about communism, I judge him. And by the way, you may know, he did have communist friends. Too many of them. Close friends that he knew very well for a long time and talked to a lot. Communists. So, think what you can about the man, but I don't like him. I wonder how blacks would have done under Soviet communism. Now, I don't actually wonder that, because I read a book by Boris Lasky. No, that couldn't be the name. No, the book's called The Ugly Russian. The Ugly Russian, and maybe Boris Lasky. And it talked about, in 1960s and 70s in Moscow, there was student exchange things between people in Africa, and they would send Russians to Africa and bring Africans to Russia and train them and stuff, trying to educate them and infiltrate them with communism and stuff. And so you'd see ethnic people in Moscow, black people from Africa. And some of the black people had said they thought, from all of the hoopla and stuff before they got to Russia, they thought that it was going to be an equal society with equal rights for everybody. But in Russia they found, in Moscow when they were there, that there was an incredible amount of racism. And black people and ethnic people were very, very, people were very prejudiced against them. So, take that if you will. Now it mentions that on the sea passage, it was a boring routine, restless sleep, calisthenics, queasy spells at the rail, right, and card games. But two events on the first huge shipment of troops over there, two events stood out. 4 black soldiers aboard the Buckner attempted to stage a hunger strike to protest assignment to Vietnam. While at sea, one of the men was court-martialed and sentenced to 6 months' imprisonment. All were later held at a stockade thrown up hastily at An Khe. The other event was less serious. Aboard the Boxer, a task force of Navy infiltrators penetrated an Army perimeter guard and stamped a light brand saying USN on the left flank of Maggie, the white mule mascot of the 1st Cavalry. So the United States Navy on the Army mule, right? Because the Army versus the Navy rivalry there. Okay, now we're on blacks in the Army. That's the subject right now. Blacks in Vietnam. Brothers in Nam by Wallace Terry. We're going to be taking about a third of the material in this little 2-page essay on Brothers in Nam. From 1965 to 67, the armed forces were probably the most integrated institutions in American society. For the first time, blacks were fully integrated in combat and fruitfully employed in positions of leadership. Coming from an 11% segment of the American populations, blacks died in Vietnam at a disproportionately greater rate in those years. In 1965 and 66, blacks made up 23